evening, one and all. Are we live?
Yeah, we're rolling, man.
Yeah, my computer did a bit of a ghost in the system there. So, good evening, one and all. Welcome along. It is season 4, episode 65. It is Project Prospect. It's myself and Mike for a nice cozy fireside chat tonight. How are things, Mike?
Yeah, all good. And I got a little drunk. Okay, I'm gonna say now. Just so full disclosure, got a little drunk Saturday, so it's put me like way behind on everything. Like I even like doing the link for this show today. I only done it about half hour ago. I was like, oh my god, I'm like behind on the mailbag article. A day late for that. A day late for the Will McDonald article. I'm like, oh my god, this is all going wrong this week.
Yeah, it's just one of those weeks. It's been quieter, I suppose. Free agency has settled down. There's not much happening on the Cowboys front. It's been a quieter news week, thankfully. And I think this is one of the good points in the draft season where you get that lull between the initial blast of free agents, everything that's going on there, and then the real run into the draft.
Yeah. This is it now. Like teams tend to like that first wave of free agency. Things start to like slow down now because like not only are players waiting for the draft because they don't want to be like they don't want to walk into a team and then they find out they're being they've got a high value draft pick walking in at their position because they know that's the end of it. So there's a little bit on both sides where some teams just want to hold out. They want to try and stabilize the roster before they get into the draft, but they don't want to push too far and like overfill your roster. So there's a little back and forth with it. The two-way street there.
Yeah, it's very true. In Cowboy news, really, since Friday, there hasn't been much. Rich has kind of had a little freak attack in our own group chat this evening with talk of a potential move for Terrence Steele to left guard. I mean, I think, Mike, this is the time for you to give us your normal mic drop and say, what season is it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing is, it's like, even in camp, we see this. That you could be right the way into camp and you'll see players playing positions, playing maybe they're playing more from the slot than they are outside, or they're playing in the box more than they are outside the box. And at this stage, until you see that starting lineup week one, just let it roll. For now, just let them figure it out.
Yeah, 100%. Like I don't believe there's anything in the talk that Terrence Steele might be moving to left guard. I think this is just breadcrumbs being thrown out there. The Cowboys have fully covered themselves in terms of players' positions that they are really. And we say this every year that the Cowboys are in a position to draft the best player available. And we always say at a position of need. And there are positions of need, but they have enough bodies right now. Yeah,
I mean, there's still obvious gaps in the roster, but they've certainly, in the ones you were most concerned about, they've certainly filled that gap.
Yeah.
Like at this stage, if they were to take players in those areas that they put gaps in, then especially if we're talking first round, then it's because they've got first round grades on those players. And like at 20, when you get to 26, if there's any players on there that have a first round grade, you're just going to take them. It doesn't matter. You just be like, we've got a first round grade on him. We're picking a 26. Just grab that guy.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just going to pull up Joe's comment here, just seeing it rolling through the screen. So Stephon Gilmore is taking Zeke's number 21 jersey. He's not taking Zeke's number 21 jersey. It's the Cowboys' number 21 jersey, which was made famous by...
Go on. You're going to say it.
Primetime, Deion Sanders.
That's right.
So It's good to see. I know the other jerseys were announced. I cannot for the life of me remember what they are.
I think they gave Brandon Cooks, I think, was it 3?
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah.
The other ones, Rolando McClain is playing 40 something.
Rolando McClain.
Rolando McClain. I tell you why.
2017.
I tell you why I said that. I'm thinking Ronald Jones, and I just been writing Will McDonald's article, and I put Rolando McClain as a Cowboy com. I'm all over the. I told you I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
Be warned.
Yeah. And I think Chumo Doga took 71.
Yeah,
is his position. I think Trent, our new long snapper, was signed by Thursday. Was he, Mike?
Sieg.
Yeah, Trent Sieg. So you guys have covered him. Joe's just asking, does this mean that Zeke won't be coming back to Dallas? No, it doesn't mean that at all. Joe, apparently Zeke wants to have his college number 15 on his back next season. I believe the number 15 jersey is actually available with the Dallas Cowboys right now. So read into that how you will.
Yeah. There is every possibility. 1 minute, sorry. Grab this wire. There is every possibility Zeke actually could come back. I mean, that would be a complete spin of events if that did happen. But, I mean, at this stage, we've said our goodbyes to Zeke, But crazier things in the NFL have happened.
Yeah. There is, this kind of leads into a question I was going to ask you anyway, Mike. In terms of at pick 26, I saw this question on Twitter being posted to our good friend Brian Broadus. Someone was doing a mock draft, and Will Levis, quarterback, was available at 26. And the question was, why would I not take Will Levis at 26? I mean, have you any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I get it. I get what they're saying. And I'm eating my own words here, first round grade talk. Because Will Levis has a first, and if Will Levis has a first round grade on your board, you've given it to him, and he's available at 26, then yeah. But you kind of, I know there's a lot of people out here that I'm about to say this, and people are screaming at the screen, going, "You take him. Dak Prescott is not the answer." So these guys, it's going to trigger them. But you've got your quarterback. You have your quarterback. So we've done talk of tight end, and a lot of people have said, no, you don't take tight end in the first round. Here's examples of tight ends taken in the first round and how they have not performed. I could do the same thing for first round quarterbacks too.
You could do the same for any position in this league.
Yeah, true.
Because you will have a boom and you will have a bust at every position.
Yeah.
I mean, wasn't it the Raiders who picked Ray Guy in the first round?
We dodged a bullet.
And they took a kicker in the first round one year as well, didn't they?
They did do that. I got banned by NFL UK for talking about us. They asked an opinion about a certain pass rusher, and I gave it a great F when they drafted him in the first round. Oh, it's usually about this time of year I get banned by them. It's the annual banning season for Mike with them. Any minute now.
Yeah, I think I'll be blocking NFL UK after some of their posts this week.
Don't worry.
If they don't block me first. But we were kind of talking, Mike, ourselves in the last few days, just in terms of what we're going to do on this show for the next couple of weeks, and we do have a plan that we're going to run to. But we did kind of say we're not going to get really to quarterbacks, but we have a couple of minutes, so I'm going to pose it to you, right? There's 4 first-round graded quarterbacks this year.
Hold on now. Let me get my draft board up if we're doing this.
You have CJ Stroud, you've Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, and I would say all 4 there are issues with.
I mean, yeah, they all have negatives to their game. A lot of it, like if we just start with Bryce, because Bryce is my number 1 quarterback, but the issue with Bryce is obviously his size. Like, you wonder what the longevity is for him in the NFL when he's getting sacked and pounded. That's the biggest not, and we've never seen really a quarterback of his size in the NFL.
No.
Like, you wonder, like with CJ Stroud, it's more the mobility issues I worry about. And you got to remember as well that CJ Stroud in Ohio State plays in a very quarterback-friendly team. Like, that is the most... You could say the same thing about maybe not Oklahoma this year, but Oklahoma years past was a very quarter. And look at the quarterbacks that have come out of there and what they've done since. Because they had it so easy. Same thing with Stroud. Like, for me, the guy I'm most impressed with, but he has a huge knock on him, is Hendon Hooker. I was impressed with him all of last year. Like, exploded on the scene from Tennessee. Loved it. And I was just like, this is the guy. And then it all goes wrong, with what happened. Very unfortunate, but a huge the timing on that is just massive. If you want to go down the road of Will Levis, like, to me, you watch it and he somehow makes it work, but the mechanics are all over the place. You watch it and they show you on the Scouting Academy the arc, and you draw the arc and they show you how to do it, and that's the art of them cocking back and throwing through. And when you watch it, it's not just all out of cue. It's really inconsistent. So, like, it will constantly always be out of time. And then the next one, you're doing it again, it's completely different again. And you're just like, wow, these mechanics are wild. And also it's his pre-snap read. You don't really see it. And it's weird to say that coming from Kentucky. And I know he transferred from Penn State for other reasons other than that he wasn't playing, but you think, like, we talk, like, let's put it this way, right? This is Will Levis in a nutshell. You've got Sean Clifford, who's coming out of Penn State. Where would you put him? Which round would you have him, roughly?
Sean Clifford, for me, undrafted free agent.
Okay. Will Levis couldn't beat him out of the job in Penn State. There we go. That's all I can just lead with every argument right there.
And this is the crazy thing. And I suppose, look, to flip it into tonight's show, which we're going to talk about defensive tackles, having 4 first-round quarterbacks is going to push talent down the board.
Yeah. It's not a bad thing for us.
Nope, it's definitely not. And having defensive linemen and defensive tackles who have had huge off-season issues is pushing them even further down the board. And I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, because he's one of the names I put in, and that's why I picked him, because it's so polarizing. But
it is. That's exactly where I was going. So, like, first guy you said, and right now I'm going, this is very, very possible. Jalen Carter, defensive tackle out of Georgia.
Yeah. I mean, like, speaking to some of the people that we get in contact with, I as far as what's happened with Jalen Carr from Georgia, he's apparently still a top. He's still going in the top 15. They said that with everything that's happened and what have you, and we'll get to that in a sec. But
yeah,
we'll go through the pieces and then click it all into place. What I've been told. So that they said that the talent is so is there, it's so big, it's so ginormous that if he went out of the top 10, there were going to be teams scrambling to go and grab him.
Yeah,
that is good. That will be the big ooh. That'll be the first round moment. Because I mean, like, this guy just throws players around, and bear in mind he's been doing it. Like, you know, we say that there are players. The way the system works through college, they're going to do minimum of 3 years from high school. Like Jalen Carter is literally one of those guys that did not need the 3 years, could have just gone straight into it. Like, he was an NFL player from the start. I mean, that Georgia defensive line is really NFL ready from the start. It's been that way for a couple of years. But it's everything. He does everything, not just in his mind, but with his body and his movements. Just does everything so snappy and so instinctive. And that's what I just love about it. And you think about it, right? That this is a guy that had Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt on his team at one point. But Jalen Carter was still the best player amongst those guys.
Yeah.
And these guys were ahead of him, you know, in terms of age and development and all the rest of it.
Yeah. Like my first notice of Jalen Carter was last season was Jeff Kavanagh on the first draft show of the year. Let's trade our first round pick for next year. I want to go and get Jalen Carter next year.
He was after this guy, exactly. Yeah.
This was the 2022 draft, and his first thoughts were, how can I get Jalen Carter next year? And as you say, this is a guy who Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt ahead of him.
And all the linebackers that were in there too. You know, you think even this year there's a lot of defensive talent on that Georgia Bulldogs team. And still the person everybody talked about was Jalen Carr. It's Jalen Carr. It's Jalen Carr's defense. It really is. It really was. So then the talk now at the moment becomes what's gone on. Like, so since he goes to court. So for people who don't know, there was a big incident last year, and a teammate and a coach got killed in a car crash, and Jalen Carter was in his own car at that time. So he pleaded no contest in court. So it's kind of like neither here nor there sort of situation. He's been done like community service, a fine, all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But what some of the people are talking about is the issues now that have arisen beyond that is, so what one person was talking about was the psychological issue he's having right now, which is the big one. So that's in twofold. That's in two parts. So the first part is obviously he's there at the scene of the crash. So imagine what that's done to him. He's seen this incident with his own eyes. He's seen these guys there. That's going to play a big part. The next part then is obviously he's trying to deal with that, as well as now go through the pre-draft process, and it's affected him. That then has also had a negative effect on his mindset, because then he goes to a pro day after the combine and all the rest of it, because the combine, he did not look good. More so, he didn't look good in the drills. Like, the drills were sluggish, they were slow. It like we were saying, it's the pop with Jalen Carter, the sharpness, the quickness, and none of that was there in the combine. Like, literally none of it. It was flat.
Yeah.
So then you go to the pro day, and again, like this time it's the athletic drills. Everything is falling. It's like the ground is just coming away from him at the moment.
Yeah.
And it all stems back from what they're saying, from what I get. It's all in the mind. It's not that like all of a sudden he's forgotten how to do it, or his body has let him down, or anything like that. Just that for whatever reason, psychologically, things are just falling apart on him, and he needs to get. And I think what is going to help him, and I agreed with one of the comments, is one of the things that will help him was when the draft is over.
Yeah.
So he just needs this process to be over to be able to just, like that once he's drafted, he knows who he's playing for, and it's all said and done. He can exhale, just be like, like that sort of moment, and then it's just on with business.
Yeah.
But because it's a first round pick, what you have is the issue with GMs and coaches and owners too who are involved in this, and scouts who are just afraid with a an early pick too. Is being the one to pin your name to that pick. So there's just that little bit of weariness where you're just like, do we? Because like the other part of it too is like you can't blame him for what happened.
No.
But I mean, we're talking about these are kids essentially, and we've all done it, where they're messing around in their cars, and apparently there's some talk where it was that they were chasing each other in each other's cars. Not violent, like friendly manner, like, oh, I'll overtake you. So there's concerns about why did he do that? And there was some concerns about his maturity before the incident, because that has come up, like in not classes, but like in meetings and coaching and all the rest of it. There has been talks that he can be that way, but you're 20-year-old kid with a world at your feet, and you're being told you're this monster talent. You're gonna have some levels of craziness too. Not craziness, that's wrong, but like of just like, do you know what I mean? You're gonna have that about you.
Yeah, it's true. Like, I mean, look, I was 20 at one stage. I was in college doing crazy. Not that I was doing crazy things. Anyone who knows me knows I'm not that crazy. But you do things in your you do things in your 20s. You're not the same person you are at 25, at 30 years of age. You're still a kid. So, he can be forgiven. And whoever is going to draft this guy is going to be drafted. Of that, there is no doubt. You're going to have to work with him, as you said, sit him down, work with him psychologically, build him back up. And if that means redshirting him for the first half of next season or all of next season, so be it. Because he's shown his abilities. And, I've been waiting to pull it up. Trust the tape.
Yeah.
This is the thing with the player. He has the ability on the tape. And if you can, like that, rebuild him over a period of 6 to 12 months, you're going to potentially have the next Aaron Donald on your hands.
In terms of name, yeah, I agree.
Potentially, yeah.
I see where you're going. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't even think you need to do that much. You just need to be the sort of team that just says, look, let's go for it. Here we are, let's rock. Because, I mean, like, his 2022 season, you see it year by year, that every year he got progressively better to 2022, where he's just dominating. He really is. Like, his run defense, as well as his pass rushing, but his run defense, man, wild.
Yeah. And like that is something that we really need, is that guy in the middle who's going to help with our run defense and, stop things for us. Like, the talk is Hankins is close to being re-signed. They have the room to do it. God knows why it's not done already. But he's coming back. But you need someone else. You need a guy who is there. And I'm just going to pull this up because I think it's something that we've seen this offseason. the Cowboys are getting a little bit more aggressive. If he falls to 15, do you consider moving up?
I mean, like, it's a crappy answer. Depends on the cost. I mean, like, if we're gonna be in terms of like, realistic, 15 could work. 15 could work. Maybe a little. I want it to come down just a little bit more before you put, because once it gets to about 19, you can like ease back a little bit, because most of those teams there are going offense. Although you would think that regardless, if there's teams there that need offense and Jalen Carter's there, you can be damn well sure they're going to take him. So I mean, say he gets to like somewhere around about before Tampa, you could probably think about trading up at that point.
Yeah. And like, take that scenario as Ultra Cowboy has said, he falls to 15. Effectively, to go and get him at 15, it's going to cost you next year's first round pick.
Probably, yeah.
Now, Ultra is saying they'd give up 26th or 3rd and 4th round pick for the best player in the draft. And I get the logic, I accept the logic, but I don't think a team at 15 is going to say that's going to do us. They're going to ask for next year's first.
Yeah. They want a return way more than,
Yeah. And effectively, to give up next year's first, is Jalen Carter going to make this team that much better that they can afford to give up next year's first round pick?
I mean, if you get the Jalen Carter we're expecting, like that, it would be a monstrous deal. The issue you've got is not so much the valuation of it all; it's more getting Jerry to sit off a first round, because it will take next year's first round pick.
Yeah.
No team is going to be happy with that unless, like you say, have 26, have 3rd and 4th, and you can have next year's 2nd and 3rd, possibly. Yeah. The issue is Jerry really does not like trading away high picks. Like, even the Amari Cooper trade, like, he regretted doing it, or regardless of how good Amari Cooper was or is, he still did not like making that move. Just does not like shipping off his draft picks, those high round draft. He just does not like it.
Doesn't like to do it. And like, I know a lot of people get on Jerry's coattails, on Stephen's coattails. Oh, they want, calling Stephen Catboy, and why won't they get aggressive and stuff like this? And people need to realize Cowboys are a lot more aggressive than a lot of teams. Like, I was doing this last year when I was preparing for the draft. The Chargers never trade picks. Never ever trade picks.
Yeah.
They either acquire players through the draft or through free agency. They do not give up picks. So calling Stephen Catboy or saying Jerry's not aggressive, I don't agree with it. And look, I get what you're saying, that they, Jerry doesn't want to give up a high draft pick. Maybe. And maybe it's a thing that Stephen is kind of going, right, we need to do something. And maybe Dan Quinn and Mike McCarthy are saying, let's get it done. This could be the piece.
The other issue you've got as well is, albeit we're talking Jalen Carter's talent level.
Yeah.
Defensive tackles generally in the NFL, very rarely do you get the Aaron Donalds. Even Aaron Donald himself, they take time to develop. So if you're taking Jalen Carter, if you're taking Jalen Carter this year, you're still going to wait for the Jalen Carter we're expecting him to become in the NFL to take several years. Not several, but 3 years really is what you're looking at. They just need to bulk up. These are boys starting to play with men. So it does take time to get there. So that sort of pick is more of a pick that you will see returns on later down the line.
Yeah. 100%. And Ultra Cowboys just coming back and saying, the 49ers moved up from 31 to 17. There's only cost a third. That's true. I accept.
There can be trades where the team you're trading to can mess it up quite badly. I mean, the 49ers did it like a year or two later, and they literally traded they traded back one spot.
Yeah.
I think, was it with the Bears? Maybe
It was with Bears. It was the Mitch Trubisky trade.
That's it. They literally trade back one spot and got like a shed load of picks for it. So it can go wrong either way.
Yeah. There's no exact science to it. But I mean, if I'm the GM,
greed is what wins the day.
Yeah. If I'm a GM who's sitting at 15 and I'm having the Dallas Cowboys ring me, I'm definitely going, next year's first.
Oh,
or
yeah.
the phone call is over.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
But in terms of let's talk about Jalen Carter, the player, right? Are you looking, because he can do both things, right? He can play one, he can play three. Are you looking at him to be your one technique, or are you looking at him to be that raw, dynamic, hair trigger three technique that's going to collapse the pocket?
This is the Dan Quinn system. So you're playing both odd and even fronts, and you can just move Jalen Carter how you want. That's the good thing about him. And we know Dan Quinn likes to move his guys around.
Yeah.
Which he will. You will see that. So with Jalen Carter, I'm just using him, like we talk about Micah Parsons being that chess piece you can have on the edge, hand down, stood up, inside, outside. That's kind of like a similar thing you're doing with Jalen Carter. The only thing you got is he does quite fit the system for Dan Quinn, because Dan Quinn likes to rotate his defensive lineman a lot. Yeah. And Jalen Carter has had that in Georgia too. And that's some down to scheme, but also you do see with Jalen Carter, as the game progresses, he gasses out. He does gas out easy. You'll see it in the fourth quarter. It's hard to watch because he's just generally out of energy. Yeah. So that's how you kind of operate in the same way Georgia has. So he's been both playing hat on hat, playing inside, playing a little more as a 3-tech or 4-eye. You can move him up and down that line because he is effective wherever you put him. Yeah.
So anything else on Jalen Carter before we move on to the next guy?
The only thing I would say in terms of technique that they need to do is they need to get him to start playing lower, because he's just been able to boss it in college at the moment. When he isn't able to boss it and he plays offensive linemen that know how to hold up against him, he can get unbalanced. Yeah. So because he's playing more upright, they'll get it means that offensive players can get him off balance. So it is something. It's not a big thing because there isn't much for Jalen Carter's game. It's just one little issue when you look at him and you go, "Ooh, yeah, okay." And it's just that one little thing that they need to work on at the next level in the NFL. That's my only last bit. So I'll let you take your guy now.
So we're moving on. The next guy we're going to talk about, and again, this was a guy. If you were talking this time last year, you were talking the first week after the 2022 draft. We're looking towards this year's draft. The guy who was neck and neck with Jalen Carter was Brian Breesy out of Clemson, and they were so close that they could have gone 1 and 2 if it had stayed. But the issues with Breesy are he's had an injury-affected 3 seasons at Clemson.
Oh, yes.
And that's
the big one.
Yeah, that is the killer with Brian Breesy, because he has the talent, he has the athleticism, he has the burst, he has the quickness, he has the ability, as you say, to fit into a Dan Quinn scheme, to play your 3 technique, to play hat on hat, to play a 4.
Oh, he's versatile as hell. Yeah, but, I mean, this is Clemson's defensive line, where you have to be versatile. That's what that defensive line is based on, is versatility. But yeah, sorry, carry on.
But that is the knock on him right now, is he's played less than 500 snaps across the last 2 seasons. And as much as you mentioned the off-field issues with Jalen Jalen Carter in terms of what he's seen. Brian Breesy has also had a lot of off-field issues in terms of his younger sister dying at the start of the 2022 season, which has had a huge effect on the Breesy family. And, you know, like it's something that's still affecting him. And, you know, it's not a knock on him to say that he's been affected by that. I mean, you don't want to see your teenage sister passing away.
Oh no. Yeah, I mean that was bad.
Yeah.
Bad moment. But he's a talented player. You got to remember, he was because I've done. You can see my scouting report on Brian Breesy on Blogging the Boys. Like the biggest knock on him is all the off-field stuff. I mean, yeah, the sister thing is bad, but in terms of as the player, the injury, because what you also see, and we've talked about this, you know, like we have with Jabril Cox and Michael Gallup, the ACL injury, you do see in Breesy the year after the injury, it doesn't look the same as what it did in his freshman year. Like, you know, everything before it was like really good. He was the number one high school, coming out of high school, he's the number one nationally graded player. That's how good he was. Gets the ACL injury and everything just changes on him. Like everything goes sideways.
Yeah.
And it's hard to see because like he's very difficult to pin down. Like people just immediately go, "Oh yeah, he's a first round talent." And I get what you say. I get when people say it, I do understand. Yes, when you look at the traits first. You go, whew. You watch the tape and you go, whew. But then you watch the post ACL injury, Brian Breesy doesn't look the same. And the statistics show up too. They do. Yeah. He's just really not as effective. And you know, it's an awkward one. And you hope that all that will be put behind, and because the injury as well has had a knock on, like just general refinement of the position, you just hope that you can get everything all back on flow and back on track. Because if he does, you know, you've got, if he is going to play for the Cowboys, a very versatile defensive line, very toolsy. Like insanely toolsy and very athletic.
Yeah. I mean, is it a concern that effectively, and I know as you say, it's Clemson system, you play everywhere. Is it a concern that we're really not sure if you're getting a defensive end or a defensive tackle with Brian Breesy, or is the case of it's great that he can do all that?
Yeah, it's fine. Whether you want him as a 1 or a 5 tech and everything in between, it's fine.
Yeah.
You've seen him do it. So, and you know, you could just literally, if you're not sure, just go back and check. You watch it, you look at it, you go, yeah, okay. Everything ticks boxes along the way.
Yeah.
It is fine. I know what you're saying, that sometimes it's like, ooh, you know, is he just the jack of all trades, master of one sort of thing? And it's like, no, don't worry about that.
And I suppose, look, the other side of it is, as much as we're saying about the off-field issues, which totally makes sense, his bounce back ability from that has shown the character of the player. He has dealt with huge adversity. Do you know, like a lot of people 10, 15 years ago never came back from the ACL. He's came back from the ACL. You know, what happened to him this time last year and into the fall before he started playing football this year. And he still played through that. You know, like that shows the ability of this guy. And, you know, he has kept going. He's worked his way back. And a team who drafts this guy are going to get, as we say, a high character, high IQ, versatile, mobile player. But other teams are going to pass because of some of those things as well.
Yeah, like I say, the issue they're going to be, and really, this is where it gets tricky, because for us on the outside looking in, this is what we see.
Yeah.
But what we don't get to see is what all these teams get in terms of medicals. So when they go to the combine and they get all the medicals, they will have the doctors who've done all the poking and prodding, and looked at all the scans and go, this is what you got.
Yeah.
This is how you get drafted by the Dallas Cowboys and your name's Damone Clark.
Yeah.
Same thing. They got the medicals, they got the doctors, they got the no. Like for us, we go, when you're looking at Damone Clark, when we were looking at him last, you go, spinal injury, neck injury. What are we doing here? The guy is not going to play this year. Yeah. All right. He's shut our mouths this year.
Yeah.
Medical reports give you it all.
Yeah. It gives and it can take away. And the final question I'm going to ask you on Breesy before we move on to our next guy, is there a possibility that Brian Breesy has a similar fall to a Nakobe Dean last year, who was a surefire first-round pick,
but the injury concerns pulled him down? Yeah. It could be. It could, like I say, to like go back to my original comment of the medicals is we don't get to see it, so we don't know. Nakobe Dean's medical injuries. What I heard with the Nakobe Dean injuries was that he will be fine for X amount of years, and then it'll go. It will go. The knee will go. Yeah. So you just wonder if, is that what they're saying on this medical with Brian Breesy? Or is it that, no, everything looks healthy, on schedule, on time, and looks like you'll get a full recovery? It's going to be fine. You just don't know. Yeah. What the risk assessment will be for him is on the medicals.
Yeah. So that is Brian Breesy covered off. Again, and like, there's nothing more really to say on him. We know what he is. We know where he can play. The next guy I'm gonna mention, a guy you just put out a draft scout on a few days ago, and we were talking about this before we went on the air. You said you had so much difficulty with grading this guy and where he's gonna fit.
Give me headaches. Yeah, it was in a group chat with another guy who's doing some scouting reports for the site. Just like I'm finding difficulty trying to figure out what a comparison in terms of, because we do Cowboys comparisons. Like it's easy to do a comparison for him. We're talking obviously about Calais Cansey from Pittsburgh Panthers.
Yeah.
And he, like, everyone is talking of him as being this, and not just because he wears the same jersey and looks the same as Aaron Donald. He does play a lot in the same way, that he's this small, stouty little guy that really, when you look at, doesn't make sense playing the position. You watch it and you go, this shouldn't make sense. Yet the production doesn't lie. You're watching him constantly in the backfield. He's fast, like the snap anticipation and the burst, and he gets so quick through the transitions. And we all know the fastest way to get to be between 2 points is a straight line, and Cansey will do that. Like, you don't have to type in Calais Cansey highlight reel. Just type in Pittsburgh Panthers game, and you can go to any game while he's there, and you're just going to see him just constantly disrupting the play and going through the middle. And one of the advantages that both him and Donald have is because they're so small, they're a smaller target. So because they're a smaller target, it means that offensive linemen can't get a punch on them. They get no leverage. So there's this weird way that it helps them in terms of pass rushing. But also at the same time, what you don't see from Aaron Donald is you don't see any anchor in the middle. You will not get that purely because of the size. Yeah. And so double teams, not going to win. Run play, you're not going to get him two gapping or winning on a play. Like I even did a highlight clip, and the highlight clip is a running play which just completely flushed out of the play completely. Yeah. Like it didn't even look like the offensive lineman was really doing much too hard to get him washed out. And, Kansie's completely out of the game on it.
Yeah.
So you look as well that you think, I don't. There's two problems as well. His frame is almost kind of maxed out on what you want him to be, but also you don't want to put too much on him, because what makes Kansi so special is the speed, the burst, the agility.
Yeah.
So if you're going to put more weight on him, you lose what makes him special. Like, think of Aaron Donald. Would you want to put more chunk on the butt on that and just watch him struggle to be this disruptor in the backfield that gets around offensive linemen? No, you want him to be that guy. And that's what it is with Kansi. So, yeah, it's a tricky one, because you're just like, what Kansi's going to be is he is, especially with what's coming in the future, he's an outlier. Yeah, and I know that's weird to say, because you can say, well, Aaron Donald's an outlier. And you're like, well, no, Aaron Donald's a unicorn. Right now, Kansi is more the outlier of the wave of defensive linemen that are coming in. There's the smaller, stouter, quicker guys. So really, you wonder, like, is that a good or... And this is where it becomes tricky. This was the point, is being the outlier a good or a bad thing? Because are you going to be the guy that gets in on the action first? Or is it that, no, that it's not translatable because the size is just not something you can train out of him?
Yeah. Like, you've absolutely nailed the word I had for him, which was outlier. Because when you look at a guy who's 6 foot, 275, I can see for the combine he was 6'1", 281, right? That creates an issue because, as you say, small. That's small for a defensive tackle.
Oh yeah, really small.
And this guy is going to have to play as a 3 tech or a 5 tech. You're not going to be able to play this guy as a 1 tech because he's going to get cremated. And I just like that. I just want to bring up Lebarski's point. He'd rather take a different position in the first and a 1 tech in the second or third to allow also Odigizua to continue to develop. And Kansi is a guy who's going to be there for you in the second. But if you take him in the second, does that then alter what you're doing with also Odigizua? Does that block his path to the team?
No, I don't think it does. Osa's still got his role, and he always will.
Yeah.
Most definitely. When you think Gallimore isn't doing much, so Gallimore's really opened the door for Osa.
That's where I was going to go to next. Is it a case of, if you get this guy, bring him in, you're kind of going, I don't have much money left on Neville Gallimore's contract. I can afford to move on. I can bring in 2 rookies with the money I'm paying Neville Gallimore, and that's their contracts covered.
Yeah.
You know, and we have a guy there. We still have Chauncey Goldston who can drop in and play defensive tackle. That gives you the cover of having three techs there.
I mean, like, really, Clay Kansi is going to be, if he was getting him in, he's really taken over the Neville Gallimore role as the interior pass rusher, or like that interior designated pass rusher. So on obvious pass plays, on rotation, that's what he's there for. You're not going to have him to come in and play, to try and defend the run. That's just, you can't do that. It's just not going to work. He is a 3 tech. And he's just literally he's your pass rushing, designated pass rusher from the 3 tech position. Is what you're going to use him for.
And I mean that for me represents a risk in that you're effectively only bringing this guy in on 3rd down. And
somewhat, you are.
Is that, is the juice worth the squeeze with a 2nd round pick? Taking a guy there.
Yeah, I mean, it's how early you want to take that, because he's gonna be big. If you can get some strength onto him, much like Aaron Donald did over time, you put some strength on him, so a little bit of bulk. Not so we're not talking weight, we're talking healthy weight. So you do a bit of that, then you really could get a very special player in Kansas City. Everything is there. Everything is on that. All the moves, all the pass rush skills, he stacks up plays, pass rush moves over time, and just absolutely destroys. And that if one thing doesn't work, not just from play to play, but during a play, he's got the speed, the quickness, and he's also got the instincts to know where to go with it. He can literally change it up on the fly, and it will work. You see him do it, and it is crazy to watch. But and like when you're watching it, you're like, man, I am watching Aaron Donald. It does everything. It looks starkly very similar to what it was in Pittsburgh. Or Pitt, I should say. Pittsburgh sounds weird to say. Yeah, Pittsburgh. You think Steelers, but for Pitt, that is what you see. And so, like, if you can unlock the running game side of it all, which can develop over time, then I mean, you're gonna have an incredibly special defensive lineman.
Yeah. So moving on to the next guy, this was one of my picks, and the reason I wanted to pick this guy, Mazi Smith, defensive tackle out of Michigan. And it scares the living bejesus out of me. The people are taking this guy at 26 in mock drafts. The people are actually talking about this guy at pick 26. Mazi Smith is an average player who is third round grade. And if you were to take this guy at 26, I'm going to be dropping a pen and going, we've done it again. We've went back to Michigan and we've picked a bust.
No, you haven't. I agree with the first round talk on Mazi.
Yeah.
Purely because there's another player we're going to be talking about who's in the same boat. Where when we're talking nose tackle, and we're talking nose tackle like that hold the middle type nose tackle. We talked about two gapping. That can two gap, has the ability to push into the pocket too. We've seen that. So he can disrupt the passing game as well. So he's not completely a run stopping nose tackle. He's got a little bit of both to him. Yeah. But the issue is that role and that position is like, can you take that with a first round pick? Because it's such a weird place to take that type of player.
Yeah.
He is a talent, though. I mean, this guy broke. He broke, and I had to get a new machine for him. He broke the weight room in Michigan. He's powerful. So much strength. Like, literally, no, he did break the weight room in Michigan. Yeah, and I had to get, like, a different machine because he was, I think he was either squatting or benching something, and, like, they run out of weights. And, like, basically, it was just like, you're doing what with this machine? And it was because everything else, so they had to get something so it had more weight to it, which is crazy. And he is good, and you can see him, and he, like everything you've got as well in terms of like the arm length, which we've heard a lot about. He pretty much makes the cut for what the Cowboys look for in terms of that player. And it is good. I wouldn't say, for me, he's a second round pick. Purely because he is a talented player, but I can't take that run stuff in, that run stop in nose tackle in the first round. It's just way too much. I would say, though, in terms of like what you've got, this is the strongest guy. This is the strongest man that's coming out this year.
Yeah.
And Michigan, they used him a lot. And you can go and watch tape on him and you'll get it a lot.
Yeah.
So he's got everything. He's just this chunky guy. The issue is more like he's got the mindset and the aggression, and he has the strength to play nose tackle. But when you look at it, there's just something that just doesn't quite look right for a nose tackle. It's just kind of like, I just needed you to be a bit bigger, if you don't mind. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could have just done with that a bit more.
And is that really the issue here with this guy? Is he doesn't have the weight to be a true nose tackle.
I think you can get the
But he
weight
hasn't dropped enough weight to be a true 3-tech.
A 3-tech. Yeah, you kind of, you're somewhere in between. You're half of one and half the other. You know, it's tricky to try and figure out, and everything about it too. Because if he was to say, maybe we could shed him, and he could be maybe not quite a nose tackle, you turn around and you go, yeah, but look at all these athletic traits. Everything's slow. Everything's lumbered. Even for a guy like him. So you go and look at the 3-cone and you think, all right, the 3-cone is the big one. Yeah, it's bad. It was slow. And you do see that because, like, his burst off the line is his reaction to the snap, as well as when the snap happens, you see him moving. Everything's just slow. It's just, and you kind of like, okay. So then you watch the arm movements, and the arm movements all slow, and then the ball carriers go past him. He's slow to turn. You just kind of like everything's a little bit lumber. But on top of that,
as T-Rex arms.
You what? Sorry,
he has little T-Rex arms.
Well, I would call them small. I wouldn't say that. They make the cut. For definite. It's just about though. Do you know what I mean? That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
They kind of like what the Cowboys look for is kind of like just making the cut.
Yeah.
But he also has off-field issues as well. He's had the arrest.
Yeah, that's the huge concern again, is that there are off-field issues with this guy. And again, with everything else, he's a bit of a tweener. You're not sure what he is. You feel like you're going to have to light a fire under his ass to get him to decide, right, what are you? Are you a 3-technique? Do you want to be a 1-tech? Because whichever team is going to draft this guy really needs to make that decision. What are you? Where are you playing? And how are you going to fit into my system? And then ultimately, you've had off-field issues. Are you going to keep your nose clean?
Yeah. I think it's not so much down to him. It's going to be down to the team what they decide him to be. They need to make that decision. But yeah, I mean, that's really what it is with him. And like, if the Cowboys did take him in the second round, especially with the need on the team, you'd be happy with it. You go, okay, yeah, that fills a need. That fills a huge need.
Yeah. So I'm just going to flip because I know the next guy we're going to go to, and Lebarski did post this in. Is there much separation between Mazi Smith and Saika Ika and Keanu Benton with a later pick?
See, now I'm going to have to go back. No, there isn't much. I would have, I would, because so Ike is the next guy on our list, which we'll go to, but there is a difference between him. Benton again. There's more subtle differences between the three of them.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, if we stick with where we're going, we've probably done it in order, actually.
Yeah. We have.
Yeah. So, like, Mazi, I would say, is the first. Iker is like the next round down, and Keanu Benton is maybe the same round, but a little bit further down that round.
Yeah, I would
that's
that's
how I would put it.
Ika and Benton maybe 5 places apart.
Opposite ends of the round, I would have.
Yeah.
And you kind of you've got your guy, which I'm surprised you didn't take, Moro Ojomo from Texas. Yeah. He's somewhere hovering around there. I drift back and forth on his value.
Yeah. I've tried not to be a homer in this series, so
Oh yeah.
that's why I moved away from a Jomo. I don't think I have picked a Texas guy yet in any of these. So I'll have to think of someone from Texas because we don't have that many guys coming out this year.
Mm.
But the next guy we've already mentioned his name, Saiki Ika.
Yes.
This is a pure one tech. This is 360 pounds of pure Polynesian beef. This is Vita Vea.
Yeah. So this is more of your traditional classical nose tackle. That's what this guy is. And there is a lot to like. There is a lot to like. I will say that. The issue I have is, remember we talked before, is that we what you like to see through college is a progressive incline of what it is, and you do see it, but all of a sudden, for whatever reason, with Baylor, because he was with LSU, so he's at LSU, rightly moves to Baylor because he's just not getting the playing time, and you can see the talents and the traits there. Rightly moves to Baylor, and it's okay, it's fine, it's going okay, but then all of a sudden last year, everything just disappears, and you're just like, this is weird to watch. Where is the Ica we all, not we all know, but where's the Ica we're expecting or what we're looking for? And it literally it goes up and up, and then it just plummets down all of a sudden. So it's a weird one to watch. But what is good with Ica is that motor is running hot, like violent from start to finish, from snap to snap, series to series, all the way quarter to quarter. He gets like all the leverage in the world when he gets onto a defender. He's under there, he's under those pads, pushing him, and you can see he knows the process of how to win. You can see that, and it is good. And he is the sort of nose tackle, so he's a lot more heavier than Mazzy is. But he's also that sort of nose tackle where you're just like, okay, just stay there. Don't go anymore. That's just where you need to be. That's just right. For what you are, for the type of player and playing at the nose tackle, that's where you just need to be. I know, obviously, we say classical nose tackles. You expect them to have a bit more weight than what he's got on, because that's how they were back then. But you could see that this just works for him. It's just right.
Yeah. I suppose, look, the one knock, and like we kind of call this about Mazzy Smith, is, maintaining weight, because what I have up here, he's 358 pounds, but at the combine he weighed in at 335.
Yeah.
And the good thing about that was that having that little bit less weight on him gave him a bit more explosiveness, made him more dynamic, and just gave, as you said, it adds to his power, it adds to his technique.
Yeah.
Just having that bit less weight.
Yeah. Because, I mean, like, what you get with Ica is it's efficiency. So you watch what he does, that all the angles that he takes and the movements he makes are all deliberate, and they're all exactly what you want them to do, exactly where you need him to be. The angles he takes to get to wherever the ball is, wherever the carrier is, or the quarterback, you can see. And it is good to see. And what you usually see as well in terms of pass rushing skill is that he's just pushing guys back. He's pushing them back into the quarterback, which is a great way to disrupt the play. Does that a lot. I mean, like, the issue you've got is that, and you see this a lot in Baylor, and I can never figure it out with him. All I can say is what you can see. And if you go back and watch the Baylor, if there's ever a play where the defensive line has failed and there's defensive lineman on the floor, you usually find Ike is the first one on the ground. And he's on the ground a lot.
Yeah.
It's weird that he kind of just, I don't know why there's this unbalanced problem with him. And that makes, I think it's that he's trying to play high because he's so big. So because he's playing high, offensive linemen are getting under him quite easily. They're leveraging him out, causes him to fall off balance, and then he's going to the ground. But you see it a lot with him, and it's hard to watch in that respect. But when he's not on the ground and he's moving, he's moving, he's comboing, he's doing all the work that you want him to do, and it just looks right. Like it is good for me though. I would kind of. It depends how the board is falling. I would have him on the cheater grade for the second round, so a 2-3.
Yeah. Lebarski is asking the question, as of today, he's a fit for this team. Do you have to use 58 or is he there at 90?
Yeah, that's the thing. But
as you say, it's a cheater grade to say he's a 2-3.
It is.
But
I hate to.
I 100% agree with you, because I right now would take this guy with second round pick and would have no hesitation in doing it. But I accept that there are limitations, and doing so is not going to please a lot of people in Cowboys Nation.
Yeah, I mean, like I can. We were saying about trading, depending how this board falls in the second round, I wouldn't be surprised, because especially the way this draft is this year. This draft is not a particularly. There are if you was to break it down completely, there are 4 clear, sort of 4 very clear blocks of players, and they have huge gaps between what that talent pool is. So, like, if you're saying we can get rid of some of our later round picks to go up in the second round, depending on how it falls, I could see that happening. Which means you would miss out on a guy like Ike.
Yeah. So Lebarski did ask a question here. He was kind of saying, because the way we're talking, it seems like better value to go with a defensive tackle on day 2 or later. 100%. This is what we're talking about. And this is kind of the idea that myself and Mike have always had for this show, is that we're not going to tell you the guys are first round talents and that's who we're going to look at. We do try and give you guys all the way through in multiple different rounds, and that you feel that you're a little bit educated and you're kind of going, that guy, I remember the guys talking about him and they mentioned his name and he's a guy to keep an eye on. And then it makes sense, when we're on that draft day Saturday, which is the marathon stage, you're going, remember we talked about him. And which feeds into, I suppose, the last guy that we're going to talk about. And I've already been warned I kind of have to go on a bit of a home run with this guy.
You finish it off, mate.
Yeah. So in this year's draft class, it's quite unique because there are 2 Byron Youngs.
Yes.
In this draft class. They're both defensive tackles, and they have both played in the SEC. So the Byron Young that I'm talking about is the Byron Young from the Alabama Crimson Tide, who is, again, he's a senior. He's a 3 technique. He's a guy you're going to pick in the 5th or 6th round. And this is why, as we say, we try to give you guys who are going to be there later that you'll be familiar with him. Again, as a typical 3 technique, he's strong at the point of the attack. He can be a physical run defender, and he can take on your double teams, which is what you want from your 3 tech. That's his game. The issues are he sometimes, his body gets unbalanced. He lacks control. As you said about Ika, he can sometimes be that guy who's at the bottom of a pile because he's the first guy on the floor. And he doesn't have, he's lacking in the ability. He hasn't got the technique as yet, like you say, with Ika, to push and collapse that pocket and push guys into the quarterback.
Yeah. Like, I've watched some tape out because obviously you watch Alabama.
Everybody does.
Yeah. So you see it, and just like what I see is a lack of lateral movement. So you say like you can't play the edge because it doesn't bend well.
Yeah.
So you know, a fail to bend is going to be an issue there for him. And there's also, it's like as if he needs a little bit more power so he can start overpowering guys in the middle.
Yeah.
So you kind of like, when you're looking at it, you go, okay, so you got a guy that can't play edge because he can't bend, and he can't play the middle because he's not strong enough. So where do you play him? That's why I paid some attention to him, but not a lot.
Yeah. And as you say, this is the thing, that you're familiar with a couple of guys down the line who are, you know, they're not going to be first, second, third round guys. They're going to be there later on. Lebarski is kind of saying here, it's the round range that he'd take a 3-tech. This is the first time in his life he put more value on a 1-tech over a 3-tech. 100%. And that's why you'd be more leaning towards a Jalen Carter or a Siaki Ika. Because
or Breesy, if you feel he's worth the risk.
Yeah. You know, that's where you're going to go. And ultimately, it's this team's issue is that they need someone to stuff the run. Osa is your 3-tech. And anyone you bring in who's a 3-tech is only going to be backing up Osa and potentially pushing Neville Gallimore out the door.
Yeah.
So if you have that ability to draft a 1-tech this year, who's going to stop the run, who's going to be that anchor in the middle of your defensive line, take him.
Yeah!
Do you know what I like about that? Yeah, as well. It always reminds me of when Paul had it on loop for about half hour. Brilliant.
Oh, very good. So, look, hopefully we have given you guys. Well, I'll pull up Lebarski's final comment. Nope, Breezy wouldn't even be on my board, but that's because he terrifies me. And I agree.
I get it.
100% agree and can accept that point of view, Lebarski. But we do have a plan for the next couple of weeks. The Tuesday before the draft, myself and Mike have kind of decided amongst ourselves that we're actually going to throw the show open to you guys. We're going to have a little bit of chat about a couple of positions we won't have covered, but we want to know who you guys are interested in, who you guys want to voice your opinions about. It doesn't have to be a first round pick. I'm sure half of you want to talk about Bijan Robinson.
Yeah.
Or Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. But if you want to find out about a third round running back, a Tajay Spears, who has had an interview with the Cowboys today, that is the show to get on. We'll do everything we can to help you with those guys. But before we get out of here, Mike, we obviously gotta give the shout out. So
yeah, baby. So yes, if you're going to a game this year, make sure you book the Cowboys experience. Go meet and greet, stadium tours, all game day tickets, tailgates, and they've got absolutely awesome events to go to, which is all coming up. They're telling us all about it. If you book them, though, make sure that UK Cowboys sent you, because if they do, they'll give you some free stuff, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, the big event for 2023, you get to
go on, mate.
Travel to Dallas with the two of us, with the rest of the admin team, with plenty of our own fans, both from the UK, from Ireland, We're meeting up with guys from Canada. We're meeting up with, I think we're meeting some of the guys from Germany, from Mexico. So this is going to be an international takeover of the Dallas Cowboys. So make sure you get in touch with Barry and the team at Cowboys Experience. Mention you're on the UK Cowboys travel package, and the guys will hook you up with everything.
That's right, baby.
And last, but by no means least, Mike, I'll throw it back to you.
Yes, make sure you check out all our friends. You got everybody from the Dallas Cowboys, When I Fight the Fan, Blogging the Boys, as well as all the content creators, all the way from Big Game James all the way to Voch. Make sure you just go and give them a follow. Go say hi. Give them a listen.
Absolutely. And as
I don't know what happened there. I pressed the wrong button. Go on, carry on.
Folks, you guys are the MVPs of this show. You know, Joe has messaged in and said, I don't know about you guys, I'm ready for football. Absolutely. And as Labarski has said, he's learned from tonight, we're trading our first and we're going to get Jalen Carter.
That's one way to do it.
So on that bombshell, Mike will be here on Thursday night with the rest of the team. It's a good night from him.
And a good night from him.